Good evening, everyone. This is the Red Hook Town Board meeting of October 12th, 2021. Would you be kind enough to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance to the
to
flag
the flag
of
the
the
United
States
States
of
of America
and
to the republic
for which
which
it
it
stands,
stands,
one
one
nation,
nation,
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with liberty
liberty and
and
justice for all.
justice for all. Very good. Thank you all very much. I hope everyone is doing well. I'm going to pull up, if I can manage these various screens here. The agenda for tonight's meeting. Okay. Very good. Oops, let's get that up there. That's what we want. Well, that's not great, is it?
Yeah.
Can you find it?
Yeah, unfortunately, this is a new laptop and it's not allowing me to screen share.
Uh-oh.
That's not good, is it? Let's see here.
Does Deanna have the packet? Maybe she could screen share.
Yeah, Deanna, if you would look at that, if you wouldn't mind. The town board documents email sent to you.
Have it open, but I don't know how to screen share.
Oh, down at the
Yeah.
bottom, there's the green button there. It says screen share on the
Do you want me to
screen.
do it?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And when you press on that, it's going to show you everything that you have open on your computer.
Oh, yeah.
So then you look for that item.
Okay.
Sorry, folks, little
I have to
technical
just figure
difficulty
it out.
here.
Okay. You see
There you
it?
go.
There you go.
Thank you, Deanna.
You're welcome.
Look at it, and we can blow that up there, little pluses and minuses up there for the folks at home. What we'll be discussing tonight, folks, if you would scroll down just a little bit, Dana, terrific. So we have 3 public hearings. The first one is the completion of the local law D micro hydro facilities. We had a lengthy discussion about that at our last meeting. We were just waiting for an LWRP consistency form back from the planning board. We have also 745, the Sawkill Trail, and 755 local law E, which is the cannabis opt-out. During the regular portion of the meeting, we'll be discussing and finalizing microhydro and the Sawkill Trail project. We'll have continued discussion on local law E cannabis opt-out, and those public hearings, or the public hearings for cannabis, will be extended to our next meeting, October 27th. So if you wish to make some comments or additional comments, you'll have at least 15 days to do so. We're then going to discuss extension, fee waiver, and public easements on the Tradition project, which is a phased multi-year project. and renew our water operator contract and discuss one potential appointment as part of our reorganization. We also need to set a public hearing so we can solicit public input on community development block grant program ideas. The application is due at the beginning of December. So folks, that's what we'll be discussing tonight. And it's the first meeting of the month. So Deanna, if you're able to scroll down, we can do the supervisor's report. And on the third page there at the bottom, we have our totals with the opening balance. Very good. Oh, you had it before. We go back up a little bit. Oh, that's right. Nope, you got it. You've got it. Terrific. So we started the month, and this is for the month ending September 30th, opening balance of 8,164,000, receipts of nearly 800,000, disbursements of 1.128 million. We have an ending balance for this quarter at 7,832,000 and change. In addition, you have your variance report, town board members, and we have a few budget adjustments recommended by our bookkeeper and Conway. The largest is an appropriation from the fund balance for the well rehab project. Are there any questions about any of the information in the reports? Okay, if not, I would entertain a motion to accept the supervisor's report and the budget adjustments with one small change on the budget adjustments. There was a request, last minute request from our highway superintendent for a minor adjustment increase in the sign budget line. And so I would include that as well. So is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Christine. And there was a second by
Bill Hamel.
Bill Hamel. Thank you very much. All in favor, Bill O'Neill,
Aye.
Jacob Testa.
Aye.
Thank you very much. And Deanna, if you'd like to scroll all the way down to your clerk's monthly report, we're ready for that. You can just keep on going. It's about 15 pages, maybe. That's that. Almost there. What? A little, you went a little past, I think. Oh. There you are. Terrific. Would you like to read the report, Deanna?
Town clerk's monthly report for the period of September 1st to September 30th, 2021. Total local shares remitted to the supervisor, $5,123.53. Amount paid to New York State Agriculture and Markets for the spay neuter program, $35. Amount paid to New York State Department of Health for marriage licenses, $225. Amount paid to New York State Environmental Conservation for hunting and fishing licenses, $2,494.47. Total state, county, and local revenues, $7,878.
Very good. Thank you very much, Deanna. Is there a motion to accept the town clerk's report?
So moved.
Thank you, Christine. A
Second.
second? Thank you, Bill O'Neill. All in favor, Jacob Testa,
Aye.
Bill Hamel,
Aye.
and myself. Thank you very much, Deanna. And we'll just scroll down, if we could, Deanna, down to the 3 or 4 announcements we have. The first two are the VFW. They have their Oktoberfest dinner coming up on October 24th. 4 to 7 p.m. And there's also takeout available. They're also doing a golf simulator. And that's sort of a redundancy for people like me who play golf once in a blue moon. And that is through the beginning of December. And then also we have from Community Action on the next slide. There we go. They're looking for volunteers. They have this wonderful program that they've been running now that's called the Cash Coalition. And what they do is they provide free tax preparation assistance to low and moderate income individuals and families. And so each year they solicit some professionals to see if they'd like to volunteer for the program. And that's on the next slide is their flyer. We'll put this all on the website. And if you do have expertise and meet the requirements, they of course would love to have volunteers help. It's a great program. Last announcement, we don't have anything as far as the slide, but just to let folks know, this year, as in all years, there's an election. It's a local election, and there are early voting days and hours available on the Dutchess County Board of Elections website. They begin October 23rd and go through October 31st. There are, once again, 5 locations throughout the county. The town of Rhinebeck Town Hall will once again be the location for early voting. So if you'd like to get more information about the hours and dates, and we'll put it also on the website, Dutchess County Board of Elections. Okay, why don't we jump right into, sorry?
There's 5 locations and you can go to any one of them. So
That
if
is
you
correct.
work closer to a different one, you can do that. It's just Rhinebeck is physically the closest one
The
to Red
closest.
Hook.
Thank
Right.
you, Christine, for clarifying that. Yes, you are welcome to vote at any one of those locations and including the Board of Elections early on the 23rd to the 31st. Okay, we do have our first public hearing. Deanna, if we could scroll to the public hearing information, which is after the public comments in the document. And if you'd be kind enough to read the notice. There we go. Terrific.
Notice of public hearing, Town of Red Hook. Please take notice that a continued public hearing will be held by the Town Board of the Town of Red Hook on October 12th at 7:35 p.m. local time at the Town Hall, 7340 South Broadway, Red Hook, New York, 12571, to hear all interested persons on a proposed local law D proposed of 2021 entitled A Local Law Regarding Microhydropower Facilities, to provide for the installation of microhydropower facilities in order to further the goals of the town's climate action plan and amend the Town of Red Hook zoning law to allow microhydropower facilities in the waterfront conservation district subject to issuance of a special permit, and amend Chapter 100 of the Town Code entitled Power Plant Site Studies to exempt microhydropower facilities from the definition of a power plant and from the requirements of Chapter 100. Please take further notice that copies of said proposed local law are available for review at the Town Hall, 7340 South Broadway, Red Hook, New York, 12571. Due to the ongoing COVID pandemic, the Town Hall is closed to the general public except by appointment until further notice. Pursuant to New York laws of 2021, Chapter 417, the public will not be permitted to attend in person. Board members are expected to participate in the public hearing via teleconference or video conference. Please refer to the meeting agenda to be posted on the town website at www.redhook.org, listing the specific link which will allow the public to view and listen to the proceedings live, which is expected to be available at www.pandatv23.org. Click on Watch Live. Project documents will be posted with the meeting agenda on the town's website. All interested persons will be given an opportunity to be heard as follows. 1, the public is encouraged to submit written comments by email or telephone in advance of the hearing to townclerk@redhook.org and 845-758-4606 by 4:00 p.m. the day of the hearing. Please note local law number E proposed of 2020, local law number D proposed of 2021 in the subject. 2, written comments may be dropped in the town's Dropbox in advance of the hearing at the Town Hall, 7340 South Broadway, Red Hook, New York, 12571 by 4:00 p.m. the day of the hearing. Please observe the recommendations of the CDC regarding distancing and use of masks. All comments received in advance of the hearing will be noted in the hearing record. Interested persons may also comment by email or telephone to supervisor@redhook.org and 845-758-4622 on the date of the hearing from the time of opening the hearing until the close of the hearing. All reasonable accommodations will be made for persons with disabilities. In such a case, please notify the town clerk in advance at the above address or by phone 845-758-4606 so that arrangements can be made. By order of the Town Board of the Town of Red Hook dated September 22nd, 2021, Deanna Cochran, Town Clerk, Town of Red Hook.
Okay. Very good. Thank you very much, Deanna. We did not receive any comments at our last. This is an extension of the previous public hearing. We didn't receive any comments other than the LWRP consistency form from the planning board, and we have not received any comments this week either on this matter. Excuse me. I'd like to keep this public hearing open until we address it in the agenda item. Excuse me, can we start the public hearing for Sawkill Trail, please?
Notice of public hearing, Town of Red Hook. Please take notice that a continued public hearing will be held by the Town Board of the Town of Red Hook on October 12th, 2021 at 7:45 p.m. local time at the Town Hall, 7340 South Broadway, Red Hook, New York, 12571, to hear all interested persons regarding the proposed Sawkill Trail project. The project proposes the construction of the Sawkill Trail project as a cooperative project pursuant to a proposed cooperative agreement and 2 easements entitled Deed of Conservation Easement and Public Access Easement, given by Winnicke Land Trust Incorporated to the town, each dated February 14th, 2020, and filed as document number 02-2020945 and 02-2020947, respectively. The town board has reviewed a Part 1 environmental assessment form. The town board has adopted a resolution determining to act as lead agency for purposes of review under the State Environmental Quality Review Act, SECRA, and for purposes of review and determining that the proposed project is an unlisted action. In conjunction with its review of the project under SECRA, the town board will undertake a review of the Sawkill Trail project in order to determine whether and to what extent Red Hook's zoning laws apply to the proposed Sawkill Trail project, taking into account the 9 factors set forth in Matter of County of Monroe versus City of Rochester as follows. 1, the nature and scope of the instrumentality seeking immunity. 2, the encroaching government's legislative grant of authority. 3, the kind of function or land use involved. 4, the effect local land use regulation would have on the enterprise concerned. 5, alternative locations for the facility in less restrictive zoning areas. 6, the impact upon legitimate local interests. 7, alternative methods of providing the proposed improvement. 8, the extent of the public interest to be served by the improvements. And 9, intergovernmental participation in the project development process and an opportunity to be heard. Due to the ongoing COVID pandemic, the town hall is closed to the general public except by appointment until further notice. Pursuant to New York laws of 2021, Chapter 417, the public will not be permitted to attend in person. Board members are expected to participate in the public hearing via teleconference or video conference. Please refer to the meeting agenda to be posted on the town website at www.redhook.org, listing the specific link which will allow the public to view and listen to the proceedings live, which is expected to be available at www.pandatv23.org. Click on Watch Live. Project documents will be posted with the meeting agenda on the town's website. All interested persons will be given an opportunity to be heard as follows. 1, the public is encouraged to submit written comments by email or telephone in advance of the hearing to townclerk@redhook.org and 845-758-4606 by 4:00 p.m. the day of the hearing. Please note, Sawkill Trail Project in the subject. 2, written comments may be dropped in the town's Dropbox in advance of the hearing at the Town Hall, 7340 South Broadway, Red Hook, New York, 12571 by 4:00 p.m. the day of the hearing. Please observe the recommendations of the CDC regarding distancing and use of masks. 3, all comments so received in advance of the hearing will be noted in the hearing record. Interested persons may also comment by email or telephone to supervisor@redhook.org and 845-758-4622 on the date of the hearing from the time of opening the hearing until the close of the hearing. All reasonable accommodations will be made for persons with disabilities. In such a case, please notify the town clerk in advance at the above address or by phone 845-758-4606 so that arrangements can be made. Please take further notice that copies of said EAF form are available for review at the office of the town clerk, Red Hook Town Hall, 7340 South Broadway, Red Hook, New York, 12571. By order of the town board of the town of Red Hook, dated September 22nd, 2021, Deanna Cochran, town clerk, town of Red Hook.
Thank you very much, Deanna. And for the next public hearing, if you're welcome to maybe just read the first paragraph or two on the subject matter. The full notice is available on the town website. At this time, I'd also like to suggest that we keep the public hearing open until the agenda item. It's agenda item number 2. We have not received any public hearing comments, with the exception again of the LWRP consistency form from the planning board. Okay, that said, local law E, cannabis opt-out, the public hearing to begin at 7:55, which we are just about on time. So Deanna, yeah, just maybe briefly the first paragraph.
Notice of public hearing, Town of Red Hook. Please take notice that a public hearing will be held by the town board of the town of Red Hook on October 12th, 2021 at 7:55 p.m. local time at the town hall, 7340 South Broadway, Red Hook, New York, 12571, to hear all interested persons on a proposed local law number E proposed of 2021 entitled A Local Law Adopted Pursuant to New York State Cannabis Law 131, opting out of allowing retail cannabis dispensaries and on-site cannabis consumption establishments within the town of Red Hook outside of any village.
Great.
Please take further notice that copies of said proposed local law are available for review at the Town Hall, 7340 South Broadway, Red Hook, New York, 12571.
Great. Thank you very much, Deanna. At this time, I'd like to open up a motion to open up that public hearing, local law E, the cannabis opt-out. And for the folks at home, what the town board is needing to decide at this moment is whether or not to initially opt out to gather more information and then contemplate opting back in. There's a deadline for the end of the year, and we need to provide enough time for a permissive referendum as well. So we're not necessarily deciding whether or not we're going to have dispensaries or on-site consumption places here within the township. And again, for the folks watching at home, we're making a decision just for the town proper. The villages will be making their own decision on whether or not they would like to host these facilities. None of the decisions we make will impact whether or not people can consume cannabis or people can grow cannabis, although there is some zoning that we can implement as far as operations. So that said, we did receive quite a few emails. What I'd like to do is first start off with Brandy Nelson. You may know that Brandy is one of our town engineers. We're fortunate that she, wearing another hat, sits on the planning board in Great Barrington, Massachusetts, which most folks know as a location that has now several cannabis dispensaries. And so Brandy gave a presentation a few weeks back, I believe, Brandy, to the Planning Federation. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. And so I asked Brandy if she'd be kind enough to come and give us that same presentation and maybe take some questions from the town board so we can learn from the experiences in Massachusetts and Great Barrington in particular. So Brandy, if you'd be kind enough to take it away, please.
Sure. And Deanna, would you like me to share screen? Is that helpful to you? Okay, I'll go ahead and do that.
Yes,
Seeing a
thank you.
number of nods.
Yes, thank you.
It says you should unshare and then I can share.
All set?
Oh, yeah.
So Deanna, if you don't mind just stopping your share, then I can share.
Sorry, I don't know how to make it larger.
Up top there, there's view options.
Oh, wait, I see it right here.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Great. Thank you. No
No worries,
problem.
that's great.
All right. Good evening, everyone. It's nice to see you all.
Thanks, Brandy.
Yeah, no problem. So, as Robert said, as the supervisor said, a couple weeks ago, the Dutchess County Planning Federation had a training session, an opportunity for local boards to gather some information about the upcoming laws that are going to be developed around cannabis use in New York State. And so the state of New York's legislature did pass some regulations around the legalization of cannabis. And at this point, there is just the legislation. There are no rules that have been developed or guidance that has been developed. And the governor is just now getting to filling the two boards that are going to be guiding the state through the process. And so what I had offered to the Dutchess County Planning Federation was that both in my role as planning board chair in the town of Great Barrington, as well as our firm Tie and Bonds operations throughout New England, including some support to various communities throughout Massachusetts, we've got some insights into how cannabis has affected communities and land use in particular in communities in Massachusetts. So I'll just briefly run through this. This was very land use focused, so geared towards planning and zoning boards. And so I'll just go kind of quickly through that, and then I invite the board members to ask any questions. And so by way of beginning, I've been the chair of the planning board in Great Barrington for about 5 years. And about 7 years ago, Massachusetts legalized marijuana for medical purposes. And then in 2016, there was a ballot initiative that was on the fall ballot, and in the 2016 vote, which is in the image that's on the lower left of the screen, you can see in green the number of communities that voted for legalization of adult use of cannabis, and in orange the communities that voted against legalization. So, from a geographic standpoint, fairly large geographic spread on legalization. However, it's telling in 2018 when we got to actually establishing zoning bylaws, and this is a good marker for New York. It took about 2 years for the state of Massachusetts to establish regulations and guidance and begin taking applications from potential licensees under the adult use cannabis program for retail sales or growing facilities or processing facilities. So by 2018, once communities got a handle on what the regulations said and provided some guidance, communities shown in green here were communities that passed some sort of zoning around adult use, where communities in red had passed moratoriums while they were waiting to take in more information or maybe work through some land use issues, and communities in yellow were in flux. So you can see that there was maybe groundswell at the grassroots level to legalize, but once we saw the regulations, there was more of a sort of take in that information and try and make the best decisions for your communities based on the regulations that the state had passed. So New York right now is just in the position of, let's see, I'm having trouble advancing my slides here. So I'll give a brief history. We will run through a quick model ordinance, and then I've got some case study communities, so quite a lot of graphics that we can run through. I've provided some links here. I believe that these slides are available to the town board members. And if you click on these links, this is actually a live map that you can hover over each community, and it will tell you the specifics of the land use controls that are involved in that community. So as I mentioned before, in Massachusetts, it was a ballot initiative, which was actually a very useful tool for a municipality like Great Barrington. We were able to take in the information that said our community had passed this ballot initiative, 66% for, 33% against. And so for those of us on the planning board and on the town board, it was useful to understand where the community stood on that ballot initiative as we went to establish local laws. And communities that had a majority of voters supporting legalization were prohibited from zoning cannabis facilities out without having a separate town-specific ballot initiative on the next round. As I said before, it took about 18 months, 2 years for the state to develop the Cannabis Control Commission and develop regulations and guidance documents. Again, I've provided links to those if anybody wants to dive deeper into what the specifics are in Massachusetts. But it's interesting for us to be able to share with you in Massachusetts that the Control Commission issued licenses for a number of different types of facilities. And those categories are cultivators, retailers, manufacturers, testing labs, and then a category of other licensed marijuana related business. So I understand for New York, you all are tonight considering the opt-out provision, which is going to be for retail or on-site consumption. In doing so, that gives you time to take in some of the regulatory guidance that the state may develop, and then decide if it makes sense at another time to reverse that local law and opt back into a retail or on-site consumption. In Massachusetts, then it took about 2 years for the first retail licenses to be issued by the state. And overall, of the 351 municipalities, the majority have adopted some form of zoning around marijuana use. And that zoning includes everything from retail type uses through processing uses, through agricultural growing. Interestingly, in terms of what Massachusetts has undergone, the agricultural growing of cannabis was not considered a protected right to farm type use. It was considered more of an industrial use due to the nature of the typical growing facility. So something to consider, since you can't opt out of growing. There may be still, once the regulations come out, some opportunity for some land use controls around siting cultivation facilities. In Massachusetts, the state law allows for ordinances that govern the time, place, and manner of marijuana establishments, but cannot be unreasonably impractical. So if you were going to allow marijuana uses in your community, you couldn't then create zoning that was so complicated you effectively zone that use out of your community. There was allowance for medical dispensaries to be converted to retail dispensaries. There was allowance for a moratorium to be enacted while the zoning was considered. And there are also provisions for various bans and limits, meaning number of facilities or density of facilities, but the state established some specific procedures that needed to be followed to consider that in your zoning. And from a zoning standpoint, there was an allowance that municipalities could control things like buffer zones, signage, and the potential transportation impacts associated with particularly a retail or on-site consumption facility. There are a number of good model ordinances that are available from Massachusetts, and although it may be premature to look at them before New York puts out their regulations, it's likely that New York will follow some of Massachusetts's lead. I know Massachusetts followed some of the lead of Oregon and Colorado, so the states seem to be building off of one another as far as the regulatory development. But if anyone is curious, you could go to this link for the Pioneer Valley Planning Commission, which has a good model ordinance, and in fact one that Great Barrington followed in creating its local zoning. Specifically, there's some guidance about tailoring your zoning to meet your specific community's needs. So you as the local officials understand best kind of what the particular needs and interests are in your community. And so there should be a response that customizes that zoning to the particular community. Understanding the potential intensity of use related to cultivation facilities, and understanding a distinction between craft cultivation facilities and conventional cultivation facilities. And I'll touch upon that in some of the examples, but in general, a conventional cultivation facility is considered a facility that will grow primarily indoors. And those types of facilities are going through multiple life cycles of the cannabis plant and producing multiple crops throughout a year, whereas typically the craft cultivation facilities are growing more like your conventional farming operation, where they're just taking advantage of the growing season and planting in ground. And so the intensity of use is different insofar as that there's not a need for electric consumption for keeping lights on year round, or potentially a lot of water consumption associated with crop irrigation for that indoor growing facility. Table of use in your zoning code will need to be updated to reflect marijuana establishments. There's a need to update the definitions within your zoning code to align with marijuana uses and the state regulatory definitions. Setbacks for marijuana use facilities should be tailored specific to your community's characteristics and the different zones within your community. And there was some guidance on providing some limitations on the square footage of retail facilities. Square footage is very commonly tied to the number of people that can come in and out of a retail facility, and that has a direct correlation to the amount of traffic that can get generated. And then evaluating the proximity of marijuana uses with residential uses, because there can be some nuisance characteristics associated with a variety of the marijuana uses, particularly around traffic, noise, if there's an indoor cultivation facility related to exhaust fans, as well as odor related to the life cycle of the cannabis plant. I do have a couple of case communities. I had picked two communities, Great Barrington and Sheffield, Massachusetts. Both are in Berkshire County, which is just across the border from Columbia and Dutchess County. And Sheffield is a rural agricultural community with a population of about 3,200 people. Currently, they have 6 grow facilities, which are a mix of indoor and outdoor grow facilities. And those grow facilities are located in either their rural district, which is just a low density residential or primarily agricultural district, their general business district, or their commercial district, both of which are along state highways. And they approach their zoning from a standpoint of providing zoning overlays. So that is one zoning tool that you all have in your toolbox as well. And that was specifically geared towards dispensaries. And they require a special permit from the planning board for any sort of dispensary. They establish setbacks from places where children congregate. And they also required bonding and facility decommissioning. So similar to large scale commercial solar applications, that requirement for bonding and facility decommissioning provides a tool for the community to use should the facility no longer be operating or stop operating in an abrupt fashion. I had been for the Dutchess County Planning Federation, as I said, focused on land use issues. So I had just run down through, in Sheffield's case, the table of uses that was developed for the variety of different cannabis uses that have been established by the state of Massachusetts. Similarly, New York has quite a long list of uses associated with cannabis. And although you are potentially opting out of 2 of those uses, you may still want to consider implementing a local law that addresses the remaining uses so that you have some degree of control over those uses. So on the left-hand side here, this is the list of uses that are relevant in Massachusetts. So different types of cultivating, this craft marijuana cooperative, that tends to be a small in-ground farming operation. Marijuana product manufacturing, unbeknownst to me prior to this experience, a lot of value, what we would normally call agricultural value added products are created in the cannabis industry, particularly focused around things like medicinal products, salves, and edible products, beverages, tinctures, oils, things like that. So that's the production facility. Retail facility is similar to any retail facility you might have. Research facility, particularly geared towards medical research or scientific research. Testing laboratories. Most of the states that have legalized marijuana have very strict requirements for reporting the percentage of THC in every type of product. And so the need for testing facilities is quite great. And actually in Massachusetts, part of the reason it took so long to get regulations in place and to get folks licensed was because the testing facilities needed to get up and operating and license themselves before retail facilities could come online, because there was no place to test the product for efficacy. And then marijuana transporters, micro businesses, other types of uses, and then non-residential on-site premise consumption. And you can see in Sheffield, they are not allowing that. Just to give you an idea of what these facilities can look like, I went around the community and using a combination of on-the-ground photos and aerial photos, provided some imagery here. This facility is, you can see, located just to the east of the Housatonic River and Route 7. I would say this is probably a very well-sited commercial grow facility. It has a very significant buffer around it, just due to its particular site characteristics, lots of agricultural fields, not a lot of residential around it, and some commercial on the highway. This is one of the first outdoor facilities licensed in Massachusetts and has been operating for about 4 years. from the road, from the local town road, this is what the facility looks like. So fairly difficult to discern exactly what's going on. The state of Massachusetts does require that wherever you're growing cannabis, that it be secured within a fenced area, and that there be both security cameras, security fencing, and lighting. And so you can barely make out here in the distance a chain link fence that has a green construction scrim on it, so you cannot see into where the grow facility is. The second facility that I've got some pictures of is the Theory Wellness Outdoor Grow Facility. This too is located off a local road in a rural district. They have about 2 acres of field grown cannabis. And that facility is a little bit closer to the road. So I've got a better picture of what that fencing looks like. Again, green scrim. The farmer who's growing this is trying to make the scrim look a little bit better by providing some annual flower planting up on the site. But from the road, this is what the facility looks like. This farmer also has a field greens operation and grows those greens in the plowed field in the foreground. Up close, the green scrim, this is what it looks like. And you can see here in the center of the photo, the light and camera, security cameras that are in place for the facility. The third facility that I looked at for an example in Sheffield is a mixed-use facility. And this facility has 3 types of operation occurring on one parcel. On the far west side of the property is a greenhouse where they grow cannabis in 3 growing cycles using irrigation and artificial lighting. The middle building is their processing building where they both dry their product for a leaf product, but also make an extraction as well as a tincture and several different kinds of edibles. So this is their processing facility. And then the front building is their retail facility. It's located in a commercial area and has a fairly neutral look from the street. It's off the state highway. Again, there's some tall security fencing with some green scrim on it that is meant to prevent folks from looking into the yard for the processing facility. I don't know how much everyone has followed what's going on in Massachusetts, but the regulations require basically a seed to sale accounting of where every aspect of the plant goes. So even any waste material, stems, things like that has to be accounted for in the disposal process. So there's this very complex accounting that keeps track of all the various aspects of the plant as it matures from seed through to sale. The second community I looked at was Great Barrington, which I'm the planning board chair for. It's a small town with both a village center as well as a rural agricultural outlying area, population of 6,800. Currently has 5 retail facilities with 4 in operation. Issues that we've encountered as far as the retail facility operations have been screening from adjacent properties, lighting, parking, and traffic. All of these items are evaluated during our site plan process, and we require all marijuana uses to undergo a site plan review. All of the facilities for retail are located in the general business or downtown business districts, and the retail use is permitted where any other retail use is permitted, but is subject to site plan review. We've had several applications come before us and then be withdrawn due just to community input or possibly licensing issues with the state. So we had an application for a bakery, which was something I hadn't considered previously, as well as an indoor grow facility that was going to have 8 greenhouses. If anyone is interested, we do have local land use code on the e-codes, which you can find at this link. Let me go back. In general, it provides for guidance on siting facilities in order to minimize the adverse impacts. requires site plan review, establishes setbacks that are different from other retail uses, establishes screening requirements, and establishes limits on hours of operation. And similar to Sheffield, our table of use was amended to address marijuana uses. And so you may want to do the same as the regulations are developed for you. I'm just going to run through real quick a couple of the facilities in Great Barrington. So the first one is located in a mixed-use neighborhood that has a combination of residential and commercial facilities. So it's on a state highway. And from the street, the dispensary facility is the building here on the far right of the screen. The signage is on the left of the screen. The second facility is located in a downtown location, and so it's taking up one of the street front buildings. This is what that facility looks like. The requirements in Massachusetts do not allow for any obvious signage that indicates a cannabis leaf. So everything has to be fairly subdued, and that's something that's approved at the state level as well as at the local level. The third facility is located in a commercial business district where we've got a number of big box stores. This was the fourth facility in the state of Massachusetts that received its license. And it was the first facility that Great Barrington conducted a site plan review on and approved. And it was initially somewhat problematic from a standpoint of parking and traffic, to the point where the facility, we required them to have a police detail directing traffic in and out of the entrance to the facility. Subsequent to them needing to put an addition on their building, the planning board had an opportunity to engage with the owner operator again, and they had shifted from a retail experience where their customers would come, park at the facility, go into the store and browse, to an online retail experience where they would do all their ordering online and then they would receive a time slot to come in and pick up. And that significantly diminished the amount of traffic that we had. Although we still often see lines outside this facility, we don't see the same traffic congestion since they've implemented their online ordering. So that's an overview of what we've been experiencing in Great Barrington. I'm absolutely happy to take any questions that folks might have or share what information I can. Robert,
Thank
you're
you,
still
Brandy.
muted.
Good.
Thanks, Brandy.
Good.
Thank you,
It was a
Brandy.
great presentation.
Thanks, Brandy. As I mentioned to you, and I believe a couple others, I had the opportunity to be in Great Barrington on Sunday, so I did a little bit of my research and went to Theory Wellness, I think is one that you pointed out, not the growing operation, but the store that you referenced at the end there. And two other locations, the downtown one, and then one approaching downtown on the other side of the street, those three locations. And it was interesting to see that there was no obvious signs that at any of those locations of what was being sold there. So that made me feel better about the facilities. It was Sunday. It was quite busy at Theory. People were coming and going. They were kind enough to talk to me for quite some time. I had a whole list of questions. I thought what was interesting is I kept track of the license plates in the parking lot, and not a single one from Massachusetts. So I think the Great Barrington experience we can learn a lot from, but it's going to be very, very different than what we might have here, because we are not a township on the edge of another state that doesn't permit sales of cannabis. So I'd be interested to see what happens if many municipalities opt in. It doesn't sound like there's going to be that crush of traffic that they might have experienced in Great Barrington there. Do you have some sense of how long it took you to develop the regulations, zoning and otherwise, for Great Barrington?
Yeah, absolutely. So from the time we received guidance from the state and some local laws from some of the regional planning commissions, took about 4 months for us to put the regulations together.
Mhm.
And then in Massachusetts, just the way that town government is formed, those are subject then to approval at what's called town meeting, which is an annual meeting that occurs in May of every year. So we put our regulations together in November, and then they were approved by the May meeting.
Okay, interesting. Besides traffic, any other issues you've experienced that we should be mindful of, either with the growing operations or the dispensaries? And can you talk to us about on-site consumption places and how it came to be that there's very few in Massachusetts? Is that right?
Yeah, so I can tell you from Great Barrington standpoint, we have a very wide-ranging no smoking policy in the town. So no public smoking, no smoking in restaurants or bars. And that is something that's passed at the town level. And the state of Massachusetts allows the town boards of health to pass those kinds of legislations. Our town did amend the smoking ban to specifically include marijuana smoke.
Mhm.
So now when you go to public places, the signage reads, no cigarette, no tobacco or marijuana smoking. So it's very explicit in that regard. We don't currently allow any on-site consumption facilities, so there are no cannabis cafes in town. And we had, as a community, specifically decided that we did not want to allow that use in the community.
Okay. And
As far as, go ahead, I'm sorry.
no, that's okay. I have a follow-up question, but if you would finish, sure.
Sure. The only other issue, like I said, is really just controlling traffic and traffic movements associated with the retail facilities, because you can get queues. There are now, because there are more cannabis facilities throughout the country, there are now engineering standards with the Institute of Transportation Engineers that provide some guidance on the number of vehicle trips that are generated for cannabis facilities. And then I think lastly, the community feedback that we've gotten for some facilities, particularly grow facilities, is just concern about nuisance characteristics related to odor and
Odor, yeah.
requiring setbacks that can help mitigate some of those odor concerns.
And we heard a little bit of that when there was hemp being grown here, but not much. That comes with the agricultural nature of things. What would the police say if we went to the Great Barrington Police and asked about their experience? Would they have any input, and would they talk about an uptick in activity that they've noticed?
As far as I know from talking with town officials, we have not seen any significant increase in policing need associated with the cannabis use. I think there may be a number of factors at play there. One, our police force for a small town is quite robust. We have a full-time, I think it's 30-person force. So it's
Wow.
a fairly robust force. They have a
Wow.
very robust budget.
Wow.
We sort of provide policing for the whole of South Berkshire County.
Okay.
And so they've received, additional training. The way the taxing structure works in Massachusetts, for the first 5 years of a retail facility's operation, a community can assess against a retail facility a 3% community impact fee. And that fee is specifically meant to be used for offsetting costs that may be incurred by the community related to things like traffic details or additional policing. But also in our community, we've used it to support substance awareness and treatment facilities. So we're in for our first facility, we're in our 3rd year of that community impact fee. That impact fee sunsets after 5 years. So that we'll see that fee diminish, but we've been able to direct those funds to community organizations that support healthy youth activities to deter youth from participating in cannabis consumption, to support local law enforcement, and to support substance treatment facilities.
Unfortunately, in New York, we're not permitted to have impact fees. So we wouldn't have those additional revenues, although there are some of the revenues will go to substance abuse programs and other initiatives. You had mentioned that there have been some petitions to try to overturn the dispensaries, and can you report on how that went for us?
Sure. So there are some individuals in the community who have formed an organization to modify or amend the local laws around the regulation of cannabis facilities, particularly trying to expand setbacks from property lines for both personal cannabis cultivation, as well as retail and commercial and grow facilities. The group has made 3 petitions in the last 3 years, so one each year for the last 3 years. Those have not been supported at the community level or passed at the community level. So I'm not sure, what they're thinking about for the coming year, but so far I haven't heard anything as far as modifying the zoning.
Okay. I think that's all the questions I have now. Town board members, questions for Brandy?
I have a question, Brandy.
Yeah.
Sure.
During the 18-month plus period that the state was developing its regulations, and sort of a higher level question, does the state have a process for which they put out their draft regulations for public review and comment and input like the way the federal government does?
Yes, absolutely.
And did the local communities such as yours review those comments as they came in to see what concerns might be provided by the public on either side of the, as the regulations were being formulated?
Yes, so we're part of a regional planning consortium that, as small communities, we aggregate resources to support a full-time planner, and that planner took that on as a task where they sort of reached out, what concerns are there in rural communities, for instance, and provided some feedback and some comment there. And then what we received out of the state's process was a model local law. So I'm hoping that New York will do something similar to what they did for solar. They'll provide a model local law, and then the individual towns can modify that local law to, within the bounds of the state regulations, provide some fine tuning of the local law that then tailors the law to the particular community. So that's what we were able to do in the end. The state also provided a lot of support and had a hotline available. We can still call them. I think I talked to somebody a couple of months ago about an application that we had where I was trying to figure out, how the state laws applied. So we've had a lot of support from the state, which has been very beneficial.
Thank you.
Brandy, here in New York, the state is going to issue the licenses.
Mm-hmm.
And so I guess my question is that the way it works in Massachusetts? And then the first maps that you showed us where, 60% of the communities had voted yes. And so it was a lot of green. Do you have any idea what the comparison of licenses that were issued versus communities that voted yes is?
I don't, Christine. I could look into that and get back to you. There's a pretty robust data set on the state's website. And so I could certainly send you some links with some information. The licensing process is a little bit iterative. And I know Great Barrington got kind of caught up. We wanted to receive, prior to giving site plan approval on any marijuana use, a copy of the license. But the way the state regulation is set up is that the municipality has to be satisfied and issue their approvals before the state will issue their license. So the state won't supersede the municipality by issuing a license in a community where the local approvals are not in place. So we got ourselves in a little bit of a chicken and an egg. And so now we condition all our approvals on receiving a copy of the license so that our ZEO has a copy of the license in his file.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay, because I just can't imagine that the state is going to issue, New York State is going to issue enough licenses for, if every community in the state opted in, that they'd issue enough of those licenses. So it'd be good if you can find anything to compare in Massachusetts.
I've been following Connecticut as well. Connecticut has recently legalized adult cannabis use as well, and they have just recently put out their regulations. Their regulations are structured such that they're only going to issue one license per 25,000 people in a community. So if you have a small community, less than 25,000, your community can, there can only be one license in your community. Right. In Massachusetts, we are at the local level allowed to restrict the number of cannabis facilities to, I think it's 20% of the liquor licenses that are issued for, either retail sale or restaurants. So we can put a cap on the number of facilities, and we do that at the local level.
Okay, well, that's interesting. Thank you.
But you do have 4 facilities for 6,800, although you serve a surrounding area. Well, obviously you serve New York State and Connecticut residents right now.
New Jersey,
New Jersey and all of them.
Yeah.
That's interesting. And you regulate the hours of operation. It seems a little bit unclear what that's going to look like in New York and the guidance we're getting, because there's some reference to, if you don't opt out, all you're left with is, your normal zoning. There is a reference to hours, but it doesn't really say that. And I guess one of the concerns we would have is that they would regulate it like the State Liquor Authority says bars can stay open till 2 a.m. Well, I'm not sure we want these places open till 2 a.m., right?
I think to Bill's comment that as the state of New York begins to promulgate regulations, you're going to want to try to engage in that draft regulation process and provide comments so that small communities issues are addressed, and that you're not just sort of swept into the issues that might only be specific to a Poughkeepsie or a Kingston or a Buffalo.
Well, we're fortunate. One of the members is Jen Metzger, who we worked with not too long ago on our streetlight consortium, and so we can reach out to her and find out information as it develops and express our opinions on these topics. Anything else you think we should know about the Great Barrington experience? And again, I just don't see a lot of similarities. I think we can learn from some of the establishments because they were impressive in the way that they didn't really advertise what was being sold behind the door and were attractive places, but hard to imagine that we're going to be servicing people from all different states in the Northeast like you do now.
Yeah, I would just say, you'll need to hear what the community in Red Hook has to say about the issue and try and gauge where the community's concerns and interests are, and then develop. I would say, do consider all the uses, not just the opt-out uses in your zoning code, and plan to modify your table of uses and your definitions and put some setbacks in place once you get a sense of what the state's outline guidelines or model regulation looks like. Good. And I'm happy to help you with that when the time comes.
Oh, very good. And I'm sure we'll appreciate the help. And we're trying to work with our villages as well, because they're expressing themselves as well. And so we'd want to coordinate. I don't think New York State would give us 2 operating permits, one in the town and one in the village. So I think that's something to consider, is where to locate it, where to guide it, where to encourage it.
Definitely.
Good. Brandy, thank you so much for
welcome.
spending this time, and don't be surprised just how many questions are going to be coming your way in the future. We're so lucky, well, one, to have you as our engineer, but also that you happen also to be on the planning board in Great Barrington.
It's
This is
it's a
very
weird
helpful.
nexus of things. So
Right.
happy to be a
Thanks,
resource.
Brandy.
So,
Right.
sure.
Thanks,
Thank
Brandy.
you.
You're hanging on for a couple of
I
other
will
things.
hang on, absolutely.
I'm going to quickly just try to read off all of the input that we had from emails is available online. But just very quickly, if I could, just read off. The first comes from Shelton Lindsay. He had dropped off. He had put together what looks like a flyer to citizens of Red Hook and explaining his position, which is that he believes that the dispensaries should be encouraged in Red Hook, and that first of all, appreciate his comments about how he thinks that the town board's trying to do the right thing. Disagrees, however, about opting out first and then opting back in. I think he believes that we should have first mover advantage. I think it's what's called, where you message to those who are interested in developing these types of operations and dispensaries that you would welcome them in the community. And I know there are some, judging by the last Supervisors and Mayors Association, there are some communities that have kind of made up their minds that they're going to encourage them. Do you have any thoughts on that, Brandy? Did Great Barrington sort of try to work with people initially to have dispensaries located there?
So we had the benefit of knowing kind of what the temperature of the community was from the ballot initiative vote, which I think is very useful and helpful. We knew we weren't going against the majority of the community. My caution would only be that if you get too far ahead of the state, you may find yourself in a position of having to amend your local laws to come in line with some of the, sort of minimum restrictions or requirements that the state sets. So I don't think there's any harm in sort of taking the cautious approach and waiting to see what the state puts out. By engaging in the opt-out, it allows you to just not get ahead of the state's process.
Did you experience over in Massachusetts, did you see communities that quickly knew that they wanted this, that some of the interested parties went to them instead of other communities? We knew Great Barrington was fairly strong in wanting to have these retail uses. So we had allowed medical uses for the prior 2 years and hadn't experienced any detrimental effects based on the medical. And we sort of anticipated that the state would allow medical facilities to convert over to retail dispensaries. So Theory had actually opened first as a medical facility, and then they had converted their license to a retail facility. Yeah, they shared that with me. And for the folks at home, their operation is they have a bouncer there checking IDs. You go into a vestibule where then somebody scans the ID to make sure it's a legitimate driver's license and not a fake ID. And then you go on several lines to pick up what you've already ordered. Although I do think they take walk-ins of a small amount of walk-ins.
I think you're right.
Well, okay. All right. So I'm going to quickly try and go through this. Just a couple of comments. So that was from Shelton Lindsay, looking for reaching out to the community to get support for staying in. And David Duell as well, to stay in, a Red Hook resident of Prior Blakeney. She and her husband believe that it would be good for the community. Selena Rodriguez is opposed to having these facilities, and she's worried about the people smoking and driving. And she references her daughter's accident as an example. Gretchen Warner, she also is upset about allowing these in the community, and speaks to the opioid epidemic and other issues related to drug use. Evan Heath, same thing, resident of the town, speaking about those issues, and traffic and tax revenue is not a guarantee, and upset about normalizing a substance that could be addictive. Minors don't need a safe place to buy drugs. Lauren Pohl, she has 2 young children. She's strongly against allowing cannabis dispensaries and lounges anywhere in Red Hook. Cleo Chang wants to allow opt into dispensaries, doesn't speak to where Cleo lives. Ryan Bodner is a Hudson Valley resident. We did receive a fair amount of emails from folks who don't actually live in Red Hook. If you do write to us, we'd appreciate if you not only let us know where you live, it's not required, but it helps us understand the arguments, tourism, economic development, bringing people to the community versus people in the community who, perhaps have to live a little bit more with any potential impacts, if there are any, on allowing these facilities. Chris Wilmoth is a Red Hook resident and wants to allow them. Yael Haskell is a New Yorker who used to live in the Hudson Valley and wants to support them. Joshua Fessy is, it doesn't indicate where he lives, but he does support allowing dispensaries. Same with Matthew Bobbins. And it would be an additional amenity to the valley. Lawrence Moss, who lives in Ancramdale, would like to express his support. Julia Melfi lives in Brooklyn but spends a lot of time upstate and would like to have dispensaries up here in Red Hook. Gabriel Spector supports them as well, and knows a lot of folks that suffer from chronic pain who cannot take standard over-the-counter painkillers. And just so folks at home know, there are 38 locations in New York State where medicinal marijuana is dispensed. 12 of those, I believe, are in New York City, and the other 26 are scattered throughout the state. And you can get it from physicians who are licensed to prescribe that. Chris Davies would like to offer support to allow the dispensaries. Fintan Rowan Mason doesn't say where they live, but supports dispensaries and on-site. Dino Devaros, same thing. We have M. Miller. That's all the information I have. No location listed, but supporting. Seth Garbin, same thing. Tyler Army, opt in. Aiden Dorian talks about how this is preferable to buying it illegally, and believes that will make our community a better place. Brian Lang supporting dispensaries and just dispensaries. Yeah. Same thing for Matthew Carnicelli. Again, no listing of any address, so we don't know if it's a local. Frank Miglarelli supports cannabis sales, and Frank is a local. Susan Joya heard that the town is deciding. She lives in Pine Plains, and she's enthusiastic to have them here in Red Hook, and she promises to shop at Hannaford and support those dispensaries. Samuel Rose, who is local and doing great things for Red Hook Responds, supports opting in for legal cannabis sales in Red Hook. And while we're talking about sales, one thing folks should know is that delivery is allowed. So folks in our community can still get delivery from an adjacent community or this community if we allow dispensaries here. Larry Kagan, who isn't actually Mylan, talks about the financial benefit and the comparison, which we hear often about bars and liquor stores. Linda Lindsay, married to Shelton, also talks about the tax revenue and would like to support the dispensaries. Kate Fox is a Red Hook resident and strong support of dispensaries. And Jill Freshney are fairly new residents to Red Hook, and they are supporting Frank Vitolo, focusing on the tax revenue. Lori Renz doesn't speak to where she lives, and talks about supporting both the dispensaries and on-site. Ben Procoro, I apologize if I didn't pronounce your name correctly, supporting both options. Shelton has sent his own support email as well, specifically on allowing the town to be at the start of the green gold rush, and talks about what the money could fund. Susanna Hermans, longtime resident and local business owner of the wonderful Oblong bookstore in Rhinebeck, supports having dispensaries in our town. Brian Pittner supports both. Diane Cognatori doesn't speak to where she lives, supports. So does Michael, presumably related to Diane. Maggie Rothwell writes to us again, does not support staying in right now, prefers the town board to take its time, and is opposed to allowing both dispensary and on-site consumptions. Okay, Amy Linker would like to express her support for opting in for dispensaries. And those are the comments that we've received so far. We received two during the course of the meeting. One is from Amanda Bodian, I believe a Mylan resident, but sits on our EDC at the moment, and speaking as an individual, that she would like us all to visit some of these establishments, and speaks to Berkshire's as example. Jennifer Manon wants to voice her support to opt out of the dispensaries and consumption establishments. The Cannabis Control Board has yet to share implementation plans, which would provide instrumental guidance in making an informed decision. And that gives us more time to consider it. And those are the comments we've received during the course of the meeting and prior to the meeting. Again, as a reminder, we appreciate your input, and in particular, if you would tell us only to help educate us if you're a resident or not, but also to address the issue of why you might support or oppose either the dispensaries or on-site consumption, so that we can learn more about your thoughts and get a wide range of opinions on this. As I said before, we're going to continue with this public hearing to the next meeting. That's October 27th. At this time, I would like us to entertain, I've put at your feet the possibility of splitting up the two options, the dispensaries and the on-site consumption option, and we would split them up. One would be a modification of local law E, and that would be opting out of the consumption sites, and then have a new local law F, which would have opting out of the dispensaries, and that gives us more options. in addressing the question that is before us, which at this time is simply whether we opt out, take more time to consider, and then opt in or not. So town board members, are we okay with splitting up the question, separating out the two possibilities? Bill
Yes.
Hamel?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, Jacob? Okay, Christine
Yes.
and Bill O'Neill?
Yes.
Okay, very good. Well, that said, and for the folks at home, so there'll be a continuation of local law E modified with that change that I mentioned. And then we'll also call now a resolution to set a public hearing on what will be referred to as local law F, that other option as well. So Chris Shaw, if you wouldn't mind, I'd love to stop talking for a moment. Do you want to walk us just through the seeker stuff that we have to do for a few minutes? Did we lose Chris? Is she there?
I'm just muted. Are you then, so you're just continuing the hearing at the moment and moving on to a different agenda item on the micro hydro? Is that what we're doing?
No, I think what I'd like to do is I'd like to go ahead and tackle all of this right now, if that's possible. Let's just do the seeker. Let's now start on an agenda item. We've continued the public hearing on local law E, and let's do the seeker work, and let's have E and F set for our next meeting, shall we?
So you're staying with cannabis.
Staying with cannabis.
Okay, just 1 second. Just have to switch gears here. So do you want to share your screen with documents?
Yep, we're doing that now. Deanna's
Okay.
going to do that now. When she
So
gets
for
through.
local, let's start with local law E.
Okay,
Oh, I'm sorry.
that's okay. Well, that's F, so we want to scroll to E. There we go. Proposed revised. Okay.
So we have a draft of a revision to local law E, which would be modified to allow opting out of on-site cannabis establishments. So it no longer speaks to retail establishment, it only speaks to on-site cannabis consumption establishments. So that would be local law E proposed, and we've noted revised, so we don't get it confused with the original local law E that we circulated previously.
All right.
So what was circulated previously was this local law E with the draft short environmental assessment form and a draft addendum and to that form. So that's part of the EAF, and then a draft CAF. Do you have that in your scroll here, Robert?
The old local law E.
Well, the EAF,
These
CAF.
attachments.
We have all, yeah, we
Attachments.
have all of the attachments for all of the, for both E and F. We have all of
Okay,
that.
and those are, can you scroll to that? We'll just touch
Okay,
on
so-
those. Nope, no, that's
No, we're
micro.
back up. Well, let's see, micro hydro. So we're back down. Yep, there you go. What?
So
Okay.
there's local law E revised.
Yeah, I think we need to go down to the packet, the portion of the packet past the Sawkill.
So do you want to stop here just a minute and we'll just go through this while we're here? Okay, so back up to so we can see this page, please. So this is the new local law F, which is the same type of text as local law E, but this is a new one, which is a proposed law opting out of allowing retail cannabis dispensaries within the town outside of village. And again, this would exercise the town's authority to opt out of these facilities for the town of Red Hook.
Correct. And Chris Shaw, would you mind, could you do the screen share on the secret documents with that? I think, Deanna has them in a separate attachment.
I have all separate attachments, so that's going to be tricky. It's going to be a little time consuming. Oh,
It's all right.
was that you or is that me? All right, let me see what I got here. This is. Okay. So you're going to have to stop sharing for me to do that. If you guys can't find it, you're going to have to stop sharing so that I could do it.
Deanna, if you would, once again, there we go. Chris.
We'll see if we can make this work. Tell me if you're seeing what I'm seeing.
We are.
It should be a short EAF,
It
okay?
is.
We got
All right. So this is going to be for local law F. This is the new one. The other one wouldn't change. It would be the
Right.
same. So there's no changes proposed to the prior one for E.
Right.
So this, like the other one, is only legislative adoption of an ordinance. So that's the only part of this form that gets filled out, okay?
Right.
And then, pardon me. And we'll go to the
We all
next
have,
one.
we have the addendum, we have the coastal assessment form. And
You have the addendum?
yeah, we have all those documents, yeah. But if you want to put them on your screen, that's
can
fine. But
try.
the town board has them. And
Okay, can you see that?
yeah. you might
Okay,
wanna
so
pull
this
it
is
up
the
a little bit.
addendum for F.
Yeah.
What's that? Yeah, this is not here. Let me do this over here so I can see what you're seeing. So can you see that? Okay, so this is the addendum for F.
Mhm.
So this is again with respect to retail only. Okay. So that's that. And then there's a CAF, which is the same. You said you have that. Do you want to see the resolution?
Well, we'd need to classify first.
Well, the resolution does all of that.
Right. Yeah, we can see that resolution.
See if
And
we can see
why don't we
it.
take up that resolution now?
So this is for F.
This is for F.
Do you want to do E first?
Yeah, maybe we should do E first since that's a
Okay, yeah.
modification.
Yep, I
That
understand.
might work better.
So,
Deanna, that would be
Let's do-
resolution number,
so I can put it up if you want me to just keep doing these.
please, yeah. if
And then
you
we'll just
wouldn't
finish
mind.
this little set
Be
and then
right
we'll go
back.
back to then I think it'd be easier and then we'll go back to Deanna's list. So
Yeah.
can you see this?
We can, thank you. Yeah.
Okay, so just 1 second. I got to get to my scroll bar, move you
While
guys
you're
out of the way.
scrolling, Deanna, one more time at that number, please.
There we go. Pardon me?
I'm asking Deanna the number. I think she's on mute though.
Oh, right.
D6.
56? Having a hard time.
So this
hearing.
resolution,
Okay,
56.
56.
thank you.
okay. So this is a resolution that would amend local law E
Right,
to establish a date for a continued public hearing regarding a local law E proposed revised, which would be to opt out of allowing on-site consumption establishments. So this again recites the law that was adopted at the state level that permits the opt-out for either type of facility. It recites that you've held a public hearing today. And based on that input and your own study, that there has been proposed an amended form of local law, which will be referred to as local law E proposed revised. to opt out of on-site cannabis consumption establishments. And with respect to seeker, we do have an EAF on file for this already. And as I said, there would not be changes to that form. I guess I should say, except that I think that the form, if you allow me to make that the emendation, or the clerk to make that emendation, the name of the description of the action should be modified, of course, to remove the references to the retail, because that will not be a part of this proposed law any longer.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
And then, so there's a reference to the referral procedure, and that the town has reviewed the EAF and CAF and has previously determined to act as lead agency, that the action is unlisted, and that there are no other involved agencies. So the findings of the board would be to execute the EAF as revised, and the CAF, that would be to determine that it remains an unlisted action, and that it would hold a continued public hearing on October 27th, the time you would determine by motion. And then,
7:35.
pardon me?
7:35.
7:35. And to have the town clerk publish a notice of that further hearing, and also to refer that revised local law to the planning board for their review. We know that they have already commenced that review, and that they're expected to take it up at their meeting on Monday.
Okay. Very good. Thank you very much. That's resolution number 56, and I so move. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Bill Hamel. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor, Christine Kane,
Aye.
Jacob Testa,
Aye.
Bill O'Neill.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Okay, so that's local law E, and we are continuing modified 7:35 p.m. We encourage you to get your comments in beforehand, and we will make them all a matter of the public record. Now with local law F, this would be a resolution number 57. Once again, just reviewing, it's a carbon copy with the exception of this now references opting out of allowing retail dispensaries, cannabis dispensaries. And
Correct.
so
So this
Sorry.
resolution would classify that action and establish a date for a public hearing regarding the adoption of this new local law F. And this would be for opting out of allowing retail cannabis dispensaries within the town outside of village. So again, we recite the law that allows you to do this, and identify the EAF and CAF with addendum that we just reviewed with the board. This is the one for F. And so recites the procedures for review of this, indicates the board reviewed that CAF and EAF, and that this is an unlisted action, that there are no other involved agencies. So the findings of the board would be, if this is adopted, to authorize the EAF and CAF and determine that the action is unlisted and declare itself as lead agency for this action, to hold a public hearing on October 27th at.
I'm thinking it might make sense to have a concurrent public hearing at 7:35. I think people will want to speak to both issues at the same time. I would hate to burden them with having to submit two sets of comments. Does that make sense?
And then to have the public hearing published and posted, and then to refer a copy of that to the planning board, just as you did last time.
Yeah.
That's the resolution.
Okay, number 57, and I so move. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Christine. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor, Bill O'Neill,
Aye.
Jacob Testa,
Aye.
Bill Hamel.
Aye.
Very good. Thank you all very much. again, for the public, thank you very much for your input. As you can tell, when we started this conversation a few months ago, some of us mentioned that there might be a wide range and passionate views on both sides, and we just want you to know that we respect that, and we're doing the best we can to try to make the best decision for the community. Okay, let's quickly go to, if we could, tradition. We're going to come back to our open public hearings on micro hydro and Sawkill, but can we do tradition while Brandy's still with us? Two things we need to tackle with that. First is, it's a multi-phase development, and one of the things that our fee schedule did not contemplate is that when we approve these multi-phase developments, refilings are necessary after 3 years, and in theory, a new set of fees. Now, that's something we'll need to tackle, is to look at our fee schedule to indicate for future large developments, of which we haven't had any in quite some time, that it's not our intention to double or triple bill the developers when we are approving these multi-year projects. And so that's one of the things, is the request to waive repetitive fees for the phases that they haven't commenced yet. And then the other thing is, we've been negotiating with them public access rights, and part of it was mandated by declarations by the planning board when they reviewed the project and approved the project many years ago. And so we've asked them to make an offer for easements on the property, and they have done so on their own volition. And what they've done is speak to, and for the folks at home, the public will have access to a trail that's part of the property, and also for organized play at one of the sports fields. There will be some amenities that will remain private to the HOA. There's a pool that's being proposed. There's a mini dog park that's being proposed as well, but there is public access. And so these documents in front of us articulate what the public access is and how it's going to be coordinated. And so
You want
that's
the map up, Robert?
sure. Who would like to throw the map up? Do you have that, Chris? You do.
It's right there.
Okay.
I might have to move it around a little bit. Let's see. Can you see the whole thing?
I can't
not
see
sure how
anything.
much of this
There
you
it
can
is.
see.
Okay, just came up. Yeah, so for the folks at home, if you look to the left of the screen, you can see the outline of the sports field. If you look, it's in green, colored in green. The roadway here is the southern edge, the
This is
portion
the
of
Farm Road.
exactly Old Farm Road, and the entrance there gets you to the trail system, which is on the top part of the screen there. And so the HOA will maintain the trail, but it will be open to the public. So this is, good news for the residents, that there'll be another field that we can use, and more trails for all of us to enjoy. And so what these documents do is articulate better when we can expect to begin usage of those amenities, and just how they will be maintained and coordinated. Are there any questions, Crystal? Anything that I've left out to note?
So do we have before the board the draft of the offer of session and the terms outline?
We do. If you want to pull those up, they have them under a separate attachment. They do.
So did that show up for you?
Not yet. Right now, we're still looking at the map.
See what I can do about that. Just a second. All right. How about that?
Not
you see
yet.
that?
Looks like it's coming. Looks like it's on its way. There it is.
It's just a little slow,
Irrevocable
okay.
offer of session.
So
yeah.
this is what's called an offer of session. This is what's being provided for public roads and drainage easements and the like with respect to a development like this. It is provided to the town so that the town is not in a position of accepting an improvement before it's been constructed. So the offer of session gives the town the right to accept that full easement once the development has been completed of that particular portion of the development. So this agreement would identify the north-south trail, the passive open space parcel, a couple of them, and then the multipurpose field as described in those plat sections. I think that's the substance of this. So that's that agreement. And excuse me, let's see. I think I have to share that separately. Okay. So this is the resolution. Do you want me to just go on to this, Robert? So this recites, if you recall, the board adopted a resolution, public portions of the improvements for sections 4 and 5 recently, and we reviewed the status of the project. So this is really reciting where we are with that. We have approved the 4 and 5 sections as it relates to the town board's input, which is roads and sewer and drainage that would ultimately be potentially owned by the town. So this resolution recites that the owner has voluntarily offered to dedicate public access easements, again, as described in this offer of session, which is these particular identified portions of the recreational improvements. Not all recreational improvements are proposed to be public, only some of them. For example, there's a dog park and a community center, which are going to be private HOA operations. So the amenities plan is what we just had up on the screen. That's the little map that shows where everything is located. And then we'd have terms and conditions, which would be to identify what the requirements would be if the easement were to be taken. So this resolution would authorize the acceptance of that irrevocable offer upon completion of the conditions, which are our standard hold harmless agreement with insurance, title insurance showing that they have the right to give us what they're proposing, and then of course updating our consultant invoices, which I believe are currently up to date, and final execution of those documents delivered to us. So that's the resolution.
Thank you very much, Chris. Appreciate your reading through that. It's resolution number 58, and I so move. Is there a second?
Second.
And there's Bill Hamel. Yeah.
Correct.
Okay. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor, Jacob Testa,
Aye.
Bill O'Neill,
Aye.
Christine Kane.
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much. And then on the matter of the fees, we see the request from 25 Old Farm Road Development. They refer to COVID. Obviously, there were shutdowns in construction with COVID, but I do think we need to tackle this when we do our fee schedule for 2022, because we want to, assure that we have reasonable timeframes. There'd be no reasonable expectation that somebody could build 102 units within a 3-year period, even without COVID. So I'm fine with granting the waiver for repeating fees, and I don't think it's particularly fair either for these phases. Everyone okay with that? Okay. So I'll make a motion that we grant the waiver, but let's put that on our agenda for the next couple of months to revise our fee schedule and get the input from both planning and our building department on other fees associated. Okay, is there a second to approve that motion to waive? Do I have a second somewhere?
Second.
Thank you, Bill Hamel. Any further discussion? All in favor, Bill O'Neill,
Aye.
Christine Kane,
Aye.
Jacob Testa.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Okay, we're going to jump back to number 2, Sawkill Trail Project before we lose Brandy. Brandy, before you go, could you speak to us about winter use of Rec Park West? There was a request from our Trails Committee on the potential to plow the parking, and can you just update the board on some improvements we might need to make before we go ahead and make it available for winter use?
Sure. It's been a while probably since anyone has thought about the master plan for Rec Park West, but the master plan did include development of an 80 plus car parking lot to accommodate some multipurpose sports fields, along with the baseball field, which I think has been converted to a girls softball field down at Rec Park West. The actual construction that occurred last year and was funded in part by the town and by Greenway was focused on trailhead improvements for the Sawkill Trail. And so the parking that's actually available down there currently is limited to 8 spaces, including a handicap space, as well as the trailhead improvements. At the time those improvements were put in, a larger area was graded out just to begin prepping it for the future phases that would accommodate additional parking. I believe the request that's at hand now is whether or not we can just go ahead and plow that space off in the wintertime and make it accessible for more parking. Our concern with that is that the grading that was done is just on the field soil that's out there. It was an old agricultural field. It really is not supportive of vehicular traffic, particularly in the winter time when you're going to have a lot of freeze thaw cycles. You have a lot of rutting. And so we would not encourage a 100 by 100 foot area be plowed. I think what we'd result in is a lot of rutting, potentially people getting stuck out there, and destruction of the small amount of parking that has been installed. If the board were to entertain expanding the parking there, the first logical space and the smallest amount of improvement would be an additional 20 parking spaces that would occur on the north side of the driveway that is there currently, and would be head-in parking spaces. And the original master plan design included about 20 spaces in that area. So that would be a roughly 20 by 200 foot area that could be improved for additional parking. I haven't put any really good cost estimates together, but because you enter out onto Linden Avenue there, the county wanted to see us upgrade the entrance if we were going to have regular usage there. What we have approved currently is a very low volume driveway, and we justified putting that in because we only had 8 parking spaces. So if we're going to have, additional parking, the county may ask us to come back and upgrade the driveway there, consistent with the master plan for the larger build out of the parking area. Okay.
Very good. And then jumping around even more, and I apologize, talking about community development block grant program potential applications. Do you want to talk about one possibility? Speaking of rec parks.
Yeah, sure. One concept for community developed block grant that might be considered by the board would be to provide an accessible route between Rec Park East and Rec Park West. Again, the master plan contemplates being able to link those two together. It would provide continuity for the Sauk Hill Trail to continue across Linden Avenue, down Fruit Bud, and into Rec Park East, where there's additional facilities and the pavilion. And so a concept might be provision of a sidewalk along Fruit Bud. The town does have a 50-foot right-of-way from what I can determine from the filed subdivision maps. And the existing roadway does not take up that whole 50 feet. So it does appear you may have the ability to put in a sidewalk and provide for an accessible route between the two rec parks. And again, that's consistent with the master plan that was put together.
Very good. Thank you very much.
One quick question, Brandy, could we include in that any kind of crossing signage or, lighting or something? Could we put that in there?
Yeah, we have talked with the county about providing for a crosswalk, as well as a little trail linkage that would, once you got to the Rec Park West side, a stone dust path similar to what Sauk Hill Trail will look like that would go down and then connect to the trailhead area. But yeah, we would need to talk with the county about the particulars, but a sidewalk, or excuse me, not a sidewalk, a crosswalk, striped crosswalk with the appropriate signage.
Very good.
Yeah, okay. I have some ideas of what we might want to look at
Sure.
if we get that far.
Great. Okay, very good. So Chris Shaw, we've got some secret work to do on Sauk Hill Trail project. Item number 2, the public hearing is still open.
Open-winded. Deanna, would you like to pull the main packet back up? I think these materials are in your packet.
Yeah.
Can you maybe go to that portion of the packet on local law? I'm sorry, on the Sauk Hill project.
Capture micro hydro. Second item. No. No. Yeah. Up. There we go. There's
Okay,
one.
so if you can page down a couple of pages, I'd like to hit the short EAF and go through part 2 and 3 first, if we
Wait.
could.
What?
Keep going. Should be attached to this. There we go, right there. Back up one more page.
There you go. Part 2.
Start back up. There you go. Start with that part 2, please. Let me move you out of my way so I can see what Deanna's presenting. All right, so you see that we have a part 2 here, which has been completed for your consideration, indicating that the proposed action is expected to have no or a small impact in the areas identified, including adopted land use plans, change in intensity of use, character of the community, levels of traffic, energy use, obviously no water supplies. And I think we discussed last time with Warren the agricultural, historic, and aesthetic resource issues. Wetlands, we also discussed with Warren in terms of the way that this thing is supposed to be constructed based on the requirements that are already in the public access easement and conservation easement. Same for erosion, flooding, and drainage issues, and obviously human health. We have could you go to the next page, Deanna, please? We have a draft set of findings, which again are based on the project description that we reviewed with Warren last time. This would be an establishment of a trail from the Rec Park West all the way through to the Bard Alumni Center. Ultimately, this is a secret review for that entire project. And the trail would be unpaved, including some boardwalk sections to diverse wet areas. The proposed trail would be approximately 11,550 feet, 58 feet long, including some existing trail and some new trail. There would be some trail in existing streets with a total disturbed area not expected to exceed 1.5 acres. And the nature and the design of the trail are what would support a finding of no significant adverse impact. We have removal of narrow portions of underbrush, limiting the width of our surfaces to 8 feet. These are non-impervious surface trails only that would be permitted. And again, these are part of what helps support a finding of no significant impact. Vegetative clearing would be limited to 6 feet on either side of the trail. And the trees would in general be preserved, except where they present a hazard, excuse me. And they're gonna work around that in their routing of the trail. And some structures such as bridges, benches, boardwalks, and kiosks would be within the trail and cleared area. The project, in a few cases within the wetlands, would be limited disturbance. The boardwalk would be what would be in those areas, and that would require a federal wetlands permit to mitigate impacts and make sure that there aren't any significant impacts. This would be, as he's described it, a facility that would be placed in place so that they would limit the ground disturbance there. There's a culvert in one place and some fences or signs. And they're not expecting to disturb the stream bank, and they're not expecting to require a permit from DEC. That the potential impacts should be mitigated with the installation of fencing and vegetative screening. So those would be things that have been added to the description to specifically address those considerations. Lighting within the context of the easement is only permitted to the, if it's powered by photovoltaic panels, and would not result in glare visible from public vantage points or to be directed upwards. And based on those considerations, the project has been designed to have a limited impact on the site so that its users can enjoy the natural environment, and that supports a finding of no significant impact. So that's what's proposed for consideration by the board. Before you consider a resolution in that regard, I'd like to take you to, let's see if you can scroll down. Do we get to the LWRP findings? Can we go to that next? There we go. So that the town board referred this proposed project to the planning board, and the planning board reviewed the LWRP findings for consistency, the project for consistency with the LWRP, and they determined that it was consistent with the policies of the LWRP. The town board is now required to review those same policies, taking into account the recommendations of the planning board. So you have before you those findings. So if we could quickly go through those, and if you could page to the next page, Deanna. And I think we've done this before. This was prepared by Michelle Grigg for us. And she's identified certain areas of the policies that are relevant to this particular analysis. Many of them are not. So she's identified the project will provide a trail for recreational and educational activities, and that there isn't any other development proposed. It is not adjacent to the Hudson River. If you could go to the next page, Deanna, please. There are portions of the trail in an area identified as having any rare plants or animals are immediately adjacent to 9G. and those areas have been previously disturbed. The proposed project would not impact any streams or wetlands. The no hazardous waste or other pollutants, obviously. With respect to flooding or erosion, there are no buildings or structures proposed, other than, as obviously the boardwalks and culverts that have been discussed. So no impact on flooding is expected. This is not considered a major action. It's not adjacent to the Hudson River, and I think I'm up to page 6, Deanna, if you want to move ahead. Again, no buildings or structures here within the LWP area. And only underbrush is proposed to be removed, and trees would not be removed, again, except for hazardous situations. We're not going to be impacting lands within an ag district, and there aren't tidal or freshwater wetlands that would be impacted. So that's the proposed set of findings for the LWRP. So we have I guess the board then would be in a position to consider adoption of the findings, the LWRP findings that have been prepared by Michelle. And then the front of that LWRP page, there's a consistency determination page for you to consider.
Yeah, I think that in conjunction with the communications from DEC speak to the project, the overall project, and the trail as being protective in nature, and the whole reason why we're doing this. Obviously this trail is a limited impact on the environment there. So I'd be happy to move resolution 59, adopting determination of non-significance for the.
So Robert, before you do that, could you consider the LWRP findings first?
Yeah, okay.
Yep.
Well, I think we would find that we would issue a neg deck.
Well, first, I think we're going to look for the consistency determination, which is a separate motion.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I make a motion to
you.
accept the findings of consistency with the local waterfront revitalization plan.
Thank you.
Seconded.
Christine. Seconded by Bill O'Neill. Any further discussion? All in favor, Bill Hamel,
Aye.
Jacob Testa,
Aye.
myself, aye. Thank you very much. And then again, referencing the communication from DEC, things to be mindful of. I don't believe there's any other considerations for our secret determination. Am I missing anything? No. Parks and Rec.
heard
As well, and they did not believe that there was any issue. They've reviewed the proposed trail work, and they have no additional comments. Christine, did you start to say something? I'm sorry.
No, I just said we heard from OPRHP and they didn't have any comments.
Okay, so apologies. I will once again move resolution 59, adopting a secret determination of non-significance for the Sawkill Trail project.
Second.
Any further discussion? Bill O'Neill,
Aye.
Jacob Testa,
Aye.
Bill Hamel.
Aye.
Okay, and I think what's left for us
So then if we could move to the Monroe findings, please.
is
That would be the next consideration. Thank you. So this resolution is proposed to kind consider the construction of the trail project as a cooperative project pursuant to proposed agreement and the existing easements that are in place between Winnicke and the town. The proposal is multiple phases to be developed, starting at Rec Park West. And the town's held a public hearing on the 22nd, continued to tonight. And I think before you proceed with this, you'd want to make sure you've formally closed that hearing, Robert. Yes?
Yeah, make a motion to close the public hearing of October 12th. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, that was Christine Kane. All in favor, Bill O'Neill,
Aye.
Jacob Testa,
Aye.
Bill Hamel.
Aye.
Thank you.
So we have application of the town zoning law to this project. So the review is to consider to the extent that the town zoning law applies to the proposed projects, taking into account the 9 factors. Those include the nature and scope of the instrumentality, seeking immunity, which is a general purpose governmental entity, the encroaching government's legislative grant of authority, again, general purpose governmental entity with the authority to manage its municipal property and finances, authorized to establish public parks and acquire necessary lands. The kind or function of land use involved involves the construction of a trail and the description of the trail as we've discussed. The trail is to be created with limited impacts and non-intrusive structures. The effect local land use regulation would have on the enterprise. If the town board were to find that the project is not immune, then the planning board would need to grant site plan approval for the trail. Those procedures could at a minimum result in additional costs and time delays. It is proposed in phases and complete construction is not proposed in the immediate future, thus resulting in potential need for extensions, amendments, and additional administrative burdens. And we note that prior town projects for recreational facilities have been exempted from the planning process in this manner. Alternative locations for this facility in less restrictive zoning areas. Parks and trail systems are permitted in every district subject to site plan review, except for waterfront conservation, and requires the issuance of a special use permit. No area of the town has less restrictive zoning restrictions. So this particular location was chosen in part due to its proximity to the existing rec park and future parking facilities that are part of the master plan that's already been approved there. This is located again within the area that's covered by the existing conservation easement and public access easement that's available to the town, previously acquired. The impact on legitimate local governmental interests, the immunity would allow the project to go forward to establish additional recreational facilities. The town has taken note of areas of concern and concluded that the project would not have significant adverse environmental impacts. And the alternative methods of providing the proposed improvements would include the town undertaking itself to construct the project with its own resources were it to not proceed with the project as proposed. The trail system is designed to connect to an existing recreational park. And again, there are already existing covenants that would require preservation of water resources on this parcel. The extent of the public interest to be served, the provision of recreational resources is of great importance to the town and its residents, and would enable enjoyment, appreciation, and protection of important natural resources. And finally, the intergovernmental participation and opportunity to be heard. Again, the town has held a public hearing, and the project has been subject of discussion at public meetings, and the town solicited input from their planning board, also from the County Department of Planning and Development, DC, and Parks. So this is a resolution that would determine that the project is going to be immune from application of the town's zoning law.
And that's resolution number 60. And it's determining application of town zoning laws to the Sawkill Trail project, and I would so move. Is there a second?
Second,
Okay, all in favor, Bill Hamel,
Aye.
Bill
Aye.
O'Neill,
Aye.
Jacob Testa.
Aye.
Okay, the last bit of work we have to do on this is you have the memorandum of agreement drafted between our attorney and folks over at Winnicke Land Trust, and that articulates the duties of the various projects. And do you have any questions about that? Okay. If not, I would entertain a motion that we approve this MOA. And this would be resolution number 61. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Bill O'Neill, dated October 12th. Any further discussion? If not, Bill Hamel,
Aye.
Jacob Testa,
Aye.
Christine Kane.
Resolution,
aye.
Resolution.
Robert,
60.
did you need me to put that back on the screen?
No, we've got that one in the pack. Thank you.
Okay, okay.
So, all right, very good. So we're actually going back to number 1, local law D, micro hydro facilities. Well, it's just going to be one of those evenings, isn't it? Last meeting we had technical, or actually Panda had technical problems. This meeting it's us, but we're on back to micro hydro. If you're watching tonight's meeting and you want to know more about it, I might recommend that you watch the previous meeting. That's the September 29th meeting, where we had significant discussion about this. And we have over the last several years now. So we're just completing secret work. We were waiting once again for the LWRP consistency form. As with the previous matter, town board members, did you have any questions about the draft that's in front of you? It has
Robert,
yeah.
I think we need to do seeker first. So we have the adoption
That's-
resolution here, but we need
that's what
to
I
move
meant. That's
back
what I meant.
to the EAF,
Right.
part
okay.
2, please.
Part 2, right. And that's, I was asking if they had questions about the LWRP work that was submitted as well.
Yep.
Yep. So let's get to part 2.
So this is the local law itself.
And then part 2 on this.
Okay, it's probably attached to the secret determination if you keep going, would be my guess. There you go. Okay, back up 1 page, please. To the first page of this. There we go. We were
Okay.
just about there.
Yeah.
Nope. No, we want to go to the EAF. We were just there and we just went too far. Nope, other way, other way.
That's it, isn't
There
it?
you go.
1 more page. Nope, keep going,
No,
1 more
that's
page.
it.
There you go. This is where we want to be.
No,
There you
that's
go,
fine.
part
She's
2.
got it. She's got it. She's got it. Part 2.
It keeps flipping around.
No.
Okay,
that's
part
Oh, it's
2.
2 different pages.
That's part 2. First area is impact on land, and the obvious answer is no. This all takes place within our special district, within the Sawkill, within 1,000 feet of the high water mark of the Hudson River. Impact on geological features, no. Impacts on surface water, that's an obvious yes. Because even though it's a very small system, again, to remind the folks at home, it's a system so small that it can only power enough energy for, say, 8 or 10 homes. But it will have small impact on surface water, obviously, near the dam. Impact on flooding, no. Plants and animals, no. There's provisions for ladders for the little guys and gals to get up, migrate back upstream. Impact on agricultural resources, no. It's all run of river. Impact on aesthetic resources, no. It's thought to be minor in nature. Historic and archaeological, I can't even speak tonight. Resources, no. Energy impacts, very small positive impact on energy. Human health, no. And consistency with community plans. And oddly, it's a double negative there. The proposed action is not consistent with adopted land use plan. So you say no because it is. And same thing for 18, community character. Any questions about those answers in part 2? No? Okay.
You could go on to part 3 on the next page, please, Robert.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, the evaluation of the magnitude and importance of the impacts. We've determined that it's a type 1 for seeker status. The portions of the EAF to be completed are 1, 2, and 3, and it's because of the location, the potential location, that it is a type 1 action. So therefore it triggers.
And it's very fine print here, but I think.
Yeah, I'm just
I'm
about to get the,
sorry, I just want to note that no, I want to back up. It's very fine print here, but that the findings that you just went through when you were discussing the part 2, those findings are articulated here. And again, it's fairly fine print, and I don't know if you can make it bigger, but noting in particular that the items where you checked small to moderate impact, or small or no impact, excuse me. This explains, as Robert noted, those findings and the things such as the run of river requirement in the regulations, so that there would be no change in impoundment size. The provisions that are designed to not interfere with passage of migratory fish, and so that it would not impact fish and wildlife resources. And the noise impacts are to be mitigated by requiring housing of certain portions of the facilities within structures that would insulate the sound and mitigate impacts. And then again, it makes the note that this is consistent with the town's climate action plan. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. References the CAF, the coastal assessment form, and the LWRP. And I think that pretty much covers that with the LWRP. The consistency talks about development policies, and it's consistent with either not applicable or consistent with all the policies, consistent with 2, citing of water dependent uses, obviously. It talks about fish and wildlife again, protected areas, and general policies. Protect, enhance, and restore structures, district areas, or sites that are of significance in the history. It talks about the HLO, which is the Historic Overlay District, and how it's coincident with the Hudson River National Historic Landmark District, and it's compliant with the intent of those districts. And talks about any impairment or other impacts that are possible, and says no, it's consistent with those actions, not applicable to agricultural lands. And that's about it with the LWRP. So there again, we can say that we review the proposed action against the policies of the town's local waterfront revitalization program, which for the folks at home has been in a multi-year process of being updated. Thanks to a grant we obtained from Department of State, geez, maybe 3-4 years ago now. We thank that subgroup for all the work that they're doing. Okay, I'll make a motion that it's consistent with the policies of LWRP. Is there a second?
Second.
All in second, yeah, okay, all in favor? Bill Hamel,
Aye.
Jacob Testa.
Aye.
Bill, I thought I heard Bill O'Neill, Bill Hamel.
Aye.
Christine King. I think we got them all. We got them all. Okay. We are now at the point we'll entertain resolution 62. Is that right, Deanna? Our secret determination of non-significance related to local law D, which now I think is local law 4. Is that correct? Or 3, Chris Shaw?
You know what? We're gonna let
We're gonna let Deanna figure that out, aren't we?
I
Later.
think that it should be in here.
62.
Just a second.
No, it's
Yeah, we're
62
looking
is
for
the
the local law.
resolution, but the law.
You're right,
when
it should be
adopted-
4. It should be 4. That's what we've
Okay,
identified in here.
Okay,
yes.
it'll be our 4th law. We'll
Yep.
pass. We'll pass.
Yep.
Okay. So we have resolution 62 with our secret determination. Did we move and pass that?
Mm-mm.
Thank you. No, I'll move it. Who would like to second it?
Second.
Thank you, Christine. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor, Jacob Testa,
Aye.
Bill Hamel,
Aye.
Bill O'Neill.
Aye.
Thank you very much. We will get through this and all the paperwork, which were a few hundred pages once again. Okay, so all is left is a resolution number 63 now, authorizing the adoption of now local law 4, 2021 regarding micro hydro power facilities. And I so move. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Christine Kane. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor, Jacob Testa,
Aye.
Bill O'Neill,
Aye.
Bill Hamel.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Okay. Wow, we're getting there. Okay, 5th item on the agenda is renewing the water operator contract. There's a provision each year for a certain amount of years that if the water board is satisfied with the water operator, that they can extend the contract year by year. And that is what is in front of us. Any questions? We have the recommendation from the water board chair. If not, we can make easy work of this. This is now resolution number 63. Is that right?
No, it would be 64, right, Deanna?
We're up to 64 now?
I think that's right.
I can't hear
64.
Deanna.
64.
64. Thank you, Deanna. It's authorizing the renewal of agreement for professional services. That's the water system operator for our town's water district number 1 between the town of Red Hook and C3ND Environmental Consulting LLC. And I so move. Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? If not, all in favor, Bill O'Neill,
Aye.
Christine Kane,
Aye.
Jacob Testa.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Reorganization. Folks, we have some openings on our committees and boards, and we're going to work to get a list of those as we prepare to populate those openings, and in the hopes that in the next couple of months, we can gather once again in person for our committees and boards. And we'll put that out there in a news alert and look to see if you might be interested in joining one of our advisory committees or some of our boards. We did have a letter of interest and a resume from Amy Linker, interested in our ethics board. And so I would recommend that we go ahead and pursue. I'd love to interview her with your support. And I know that the ethics board, I think the chair has already had discussions with her. And then maybe we can come back and entertain a motion to appoint an ethics board. We'll need to make sure that it meets the requirements. There are some political affiliation maximums associated with our ethics board. So that's that. Any questions about that or anything else? And I know that we're looking to work with the library on maybe doing some sort of public outreach event to help populate some of these committees. I think it's going to be virtual or remote and in November. Okay, next up is the last item, number 7. It's a resolution to set the public hearing on the community development block grant program. We heard from Brandy one potential idea. The applications due at the very beginning of December, so we have a little bit of time, but not much time to come up with our idea. And as you know, with CDBG, the county asked that we please run the ideas by them first to make sure that they find that it's consistent with the eligibility of the program. So I'd like to suggest that we put it up for perhaps the November 9th meeting. Would that make sense? We've already got cannabis for our second meeting in October. Does that work for you all?
Yeah, that makes sense, because then, this has to get drafted and reviewed and whatnot.
Yeah.
So
Okay, but
it's
but
already
put your-
October 12th. So
Yeah. Okay. Put your thinking caps on though. Other ideas of what we might apply for. We don't want to miss out on any opportunity. I know we have a lot of grants, a lot of projects we've been doing over the years. But you know what they say, if they're going to put the money out there, better that we should bring it back here. So resolution 65, calling for a public hearing November 9th at 7:35. And I so move. Is there a second?
second,
And you will notice in this resolution, it had the October meeting, so I'm modifying the resolution to say the 9th. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor, Bill O'Neill,
Aye.
Jacob Testa,
Aye.
Bill Hamel.
Aye.
Very good. Okay, we're going to jump back to public comments.
Mr. Supervisor, before you do that, we had one other late addition that we were hoping to add, which is the cell amendment.
Yes, let's do that. Some good news there as well. So let's do that. Chris, would you be kind enough to share the screen on those?
I will do that. Give me 1 second. Pull that up if I can do that correctly. You'll tell me if you have the right thing in front of you. Does that say First Amendment?
Hang on 1 second.
yes, it does.
It does.
Okay. So we have an existing agreement that we've had in place for many years with Sprint, which has now been taken over by T-Mobile. If you may remember that T-Mobile did explore a separate place on our tower at one point, but they did not proceed to do that. So now they've acquired this lease facility. They're swapping out some equipment, but they're enhancing what they have there. So what has been proposed is a resolution that would amend that existing agreement to permit the addition of that additional equipment with an increase in the
Piece, right?
in the fees, right? So I'm just gonna see if I can put this fee arrangement in front of you. So you have the agreement here, which is the proposed First Amendment, and I'll go down to the operative section, which is basically just to increase the rent $3,600 a year on a monthly basis. And Robert, the existing rent is,
I don't have the exact number in front of me. I
let's see if I can
apologize,
pull
but
it up.
it's,
Let's see. It is, to figure out what year we're in. I think it's, are you at 28,750 right now? The extension that you're in, it goes up every year. So I think that's where you are.
high 20s,
That
yeah,
sound right? Yeah,
for them, high 20s.
right. So that's the existing agreement. It is a long-term agreement that permits like many of these agreements, it permits the lessee to continue to operate the facility here. It does have a rent increase, but as I said, this is to provide for additional equipment. So, and it has been reviewed by our engineer in terms of they're required to provide information that this will not adversely affect the tower, and our engineer reviews that. So
it's the 2875 we get now plus 3,600.
correct.
And then will it roll into, annual ups increases per the current contract?
This will just be in addition to the annual increases.
Okay.
And Chris, to give you some idea, Chris Kane, where we are in these leases allowed for, they were 5-year leases established back in 2001 and allowed for 4 5-year extensions. So I think it's 6 months prior to the date in 2026. They're up for renegotiation. Otherwise, they continue.
No, I got that. I just wanted to make sure it wasn't wiping out the annual increase
Oh, no.
provisions. So I got it. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Sure.
Okay.
Okay. So we're going to entertain, do we have a resolution or a motion? I think we can do this by motion.
You have a resolution.
You have a resolution.
But
we just-
have-
Yeah, let me give you that back.
yeah.
I'll get it back for you. There you go. There's your resolution. Ta-da.
Thanks. This would now be 66. Authorizing a First
67.
Amendment to the tower sublease agreement
66.
between the town and T-Mobile Northeast LLC.
65,
I
right?
think Deanna said 67.
Okay.
It's 66. I made a
Oh,
mistake.
66. Okay.
All right. Well, at least I got something right tonight. Okay. And I so move. Is there a second?
Second,
Thank you very much. We're going with Bill O'Neill for the second. Bill Hamel,
Aye.
Jacob Testa,
aye.
Christine Kane.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Okay, and then if we could send the screen share back to
There you go.
Deanna, we're just going to do a couple of public comments. They're all the way at the beginning, Deanna. I apologize. In the stack. I can just read. We don't necessarily. Although I want the visuals on the rec park though. The first communication is from our highway superintendent, Teresa Burke, speaking about how she's an advocate for the safety of the town of Red Oak roads. She's identified the need for reinstatement of one of our laid off full-time crew members, a replacement for our 20-year-old plow truck, and a replacement for our 20-year-old backhoe. Talking about how the town has sufficient funding, adequate equipment and manpower are essential, and year-round service to the residents, and obligation to provide that service. She did reach out to us earlier and asked us to please, consider utilizing the town of Rhinebeck as sort of a comparison, sort of a sister department. And I believe we have the same staffing levels. So in fact, I think Rhinebeck has to hire one to get back up to the same levels that we have. But yeah, all things that we need to consider, not only in the 2022 budget, but also prior and afterwards. Some of these things wouldn't necessarily hit the 22 budget. It could hit the 21 or the 23. So there are things as we go over our budget that we'll want to discuss and figure out if we want to put it in 22 or elsewhere. As far as things like backhoes, we do have a backhoe. We also have a loader with a front loader, and the village, who occupies the same space, the highway garage, also has a backhoe. So I think we want to have some discussions, some additional discussions now with the new mayor about what type of equipment sharing. And I know she did point out that, it could mean that we would have to wait or reschedule. But I think we do want to have those conversations at the very least. To have 3 backhoes in one building seems perhaps excessive, or 3 loaders anyway. All right, and then we'll talk about the additional funding for seasonal help that we put in the budget, the tentative budget as well, when we get to those budget workshops. We also had communication from the Rec Commission. Deanna, if you'd be kind of terrific. Thank you very much. They are planning phase 2 of the skate park project. So, we have revamped just about the entire rec park to the pleasure of a lot of our residents, and we're very happy with our staff and how they're maintaining the park. They now would like us to consider adding some elements to the skate park. If you've been to our skate park, it doesn't live up to the standards of some of the other aspects of our recreation amenities. And so they would like to add a grind rail. Don't ask me what that is, but I'm sure most of you know what it is. A skate bench, a wedge, a flat, a stair, a square kinked grind rail, and a grind box. They put their rationale in their request. And then, Deanna, if we could slowly go to the first page with the images. Deanna, with the pictures, the diagrams. There we go. Wonderful. Items 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. These are things to be added. 1, 2, 3 is a bank ramp with a degree, and another bank ramp. 4 and 5 are quarter pipes, if you ever wanted to know what a quarter pipe look like. More wedge bank ramps are 9 and 10. 6, 7, and 8, grind box, and another bank ramp. Item 11 is a quarter pipe. The next pages, if you go through slowly, these are what some of the elements look like individually. These are illustrations, and they seem a little dark, unfortunately. They're very hard, but we'll try to get lighter ones and put them up on the website. There you go. That's a bank ramp, grind box, and a grind box there, that illustration. And then a wedge to go on an existing, that be built on existing feature there. And a quarter pipe, which you will not see me do. And then there is kind of a drawing. Unfortunately, it looks like it's not oriented correctly, but we'll get that squared away and we'll put it up on the website. And so what we'd like to do is circulate this and make it available to the public, and in particular, those who skate and those who have expertise in this area to get their input. This was done in consultation with some folks who maybe helped us design the initial part of the skate park. They've put some estimates in there for what it might cost. I hate to talk about estimates because nothing seems to come in line these days, but I think we're looking at $40,000+ in order to add these elements, if not more. We'll find out when we go out to bid. Now there's some talk of maybe we can get this on state bid and approved vendor, and then we'll know exactly what it will cost, but I believe the estimate's around 42,000. So if you town board members would be kind enough to share this with anybody that you think would be utilizing the skate park, we'll put it up on the website. We have a list of some folks that we'd like to circulate it who are part of that skateboarding community as well. Okay, very good. I don't have anything else. Do you all? Okay, if not, I want to thank you for joining us. This is the October 12th Red Hook Town Board meeting. At this time, I would entertain a motion to close the meeting. Is there a
So
second?
moved.
Thank
Second.
you, Christine. All in favor, Jacob Testa,
Aye.
Bill O'Neill,
Aye.
Bill Hamel. Thank you all very much. Good night, everyone.
Night.
Stay safe.
Thanks, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you, Robert.
Good night, all.